We can get started early.
What?
We can get started early.
Okay. Okay, let's call to order. Let's have the opening with the prayer and the pledges. Heavenly Father, we welcome to you today as our assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, community, and nation. Help us work for the common good. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance and engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one nation under God, one and indivisible.
Receive comments from the public. Arthur?
Just, President Board, I wanted to come tonight to present myself. I'm your current Montgomery Appraisal District Representative for the Special Purpose Districts. I see you have an item number 14 on your agenda, and I would like to ask for your support in the nomination. So I wanted to come tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Consider an act on request for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Anybody? No. Consider an act on request for adjustments to account 06-4861-01.
That one we do have.
We do have.
Yeah, so this is the situation that you heard, October, I think it was. And there was a presentation made. This is a property that is along Woodlands Parkway, in your district. If you recall, there was a water line break and some issues with the facilities there at that location. The owners learned about it once the bill came in and identified that there was an issue. Did move, looks like, with the documentation they sent to make the corrections in the broken equipment, the pipe and such. But in the meantime, about 2.5 MGD, 2.5 million gallons went through the meter over that about 30 some odd days. So last we talked, there was a lot of unknowns. Where does water go? Is the meter accurate? Things like that. So in the meantime, what we've done is at the time we had a third party meter company come out and assess the meter. That was done. It was shown to be operational and working properly. That was a third party. Then we had a meeting because we still had questions, where's this water? Where did it go? So we had a meeting with the meter manufacturer and we ended up sending the meter off to the manufacturer, replacing their meter with a brand new meter, and sent the meter in question to the manufacturer. The manufacturer did their analytics and took it apart and did all what they do and identified that it was operational within limits. So I then went out to the facility, or went out personally and took a look, and I came and made some copies for y'all. Because I think the question that still remained in my head was, where did 75,000 gallons of water go at that, for 33 days, whatever it was. And what I learned, at least, that looks highly likely, from what I can tell, looking at the topo, you kind of walk the site, you can see where these facilities. If you want to look at the first page, real quick on the cover, you see that kind of reddish bush You can't see the meter in this picture. It's behind, back in those trees, behind that reddish bush. So then if I turn,
I'm very green colorblind. I have no idea.
oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I thought you could see red.
I can't see red or green.
So anyway, so just to give you more, this was more to just give you kind of a sense of the location. And then, so the first picture is looking, there at the woods. Next picture turns left, looking down the right of way, down to the roadside ditch. And then that fourth picture in the bottom right, shows that red sign is, fire department connection. Immediately to the left of that, in that picture is the backflow preventer itself. That's where the break was, at least one of the issues. That was, I think, the bigger issue. If you look, and you can kind of flip to, well, look, and still in that picture, look at the whitish box. I know the picture's small.
Yeah.
That is a vault, which if you flip the page, the two bottom pictures is a picture of that vault open. And in the bottom right picture in that, of these, right where that cup is, there's a 3-inch drain line that is utilized in vaults like this because they're not airtight. So, any water could go in them at any time. And they're designed such that it's so water not standing in those vaults so that it can get out, for just normal rainwater and such. So when I kind of saw all of this, it appeared to me that it was not only plausible, but possibly highly likely that, in my opinion, that the break happening right at this point with all that water coming out likely went into this vault and then out, and you never would have seen it. I believe that pipe is enough to push that water out, or basically pull that water out of the vault, and it would have gone into the storm sewer in their site. Certainly, if that's the case, certainly is unfortunate for sure, because it looks like the maintenance of the facility, as far as the landscapers go, just stopped shy of that. So we said, well, how did no one see that much water? I had the same question. But when I looked at this, that's what I think happened. Obviously the owners who you've heard from before have been very proactive. They want to solve this. They have solved this. They were not on WaterSmart at the time. So they are now. So certainly, getting pinged sooner would occur now, as strange volumes were flowing if it happens again. So that's good. That's the first step. All the issues that are known, at least at this time, my understanding is they've all been corrected. Obviously, it's not leaking in this picture. It was corrected. So the original bill was, let's look for that, in the amount of 21,000 and change. Trying to look at that to give you the change number. Here you go, 21,236.95, 21,236.95. Your policy allows for us to go through the adjustment worksheet and identify, and they'll get a one-time discount of the SGRI fee, and then go through comparison on getting discounted off of what their normal flows would have been. And then when you run through that calculation worksheet, you would come to a calculated refund of $12,031.28. Your policy allows me to approve those up to $1,000. So the reason that it's brought to you is because it exceeds my approval limit. And so it then goes into the board for their consideration. That's why it's in front of you, to identify how you want to handle this. So, and that refund would be $12,031.28 following the workshop.
And
Was that?
there are two levels, right? There's a 12,000 and there's a,
That was my next
okay.
question.
Yeah, could you tell us those two levels?
Let's see, the SGRA portion is $8,156.80.
So the combination equal to 21K. Okay.
No, equals the 12,031.
And so it's 8150.
8,000 is part of the 12,000.
Correct, correct.
Oh,
And so the 81, and what was this, what's the diff, when you subtract 81 from 12,000, what do you get? 4,000 and
3874.48.
which is 146.
What do you mean?
That's what you're asking for us to approve the 3,000 and change, whatever it was that you just came out.
No, the 12,000.
12. Okay.
That's-
we'll approve the SJRAs.
That's right. So before we talk, do you guys have, oh, you finished, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just say, I kind of walked the property and found the hatch is kind of sprung a little bit, so water could easily flow into that hatch. It's not meant to be watertight, and it's not, obviously it wasn't watertight. And do you guys have anything to?
Yes, so we just prepare a letter for you guys. First and foremost, we would like to express our gratitude for the assistance and cooperation to every team member and the board members throughout this case. Your professionalism and dedication have been invaluable to us, and this process has taught us much about our property and the water system. After months of meetings and discussions, we understand and acknowledge that the conclusion reached is that the water meter was functioning properly. However, there are some questions that remain unanswered, and we would like to appeal to your understanding regarding this. The first question that we have that hasn't been answered is, we have consistently stated that we shut the valve on May 30th. Why is there no water consumption registered between May 24th and May 30th? Our lawn maintenance company reported a leak on May 30th. How is it possible that such a significant leak went unnoticed for 30 days? And while we confirmed that the valve closure on May 30th, what caused the water consumption to drop by 33% on May 23rd? As property managers, our primary goal is to minimize the impact of unforeseen expenses to our tenants. This 21,000 plus charge unfortunately will directly affect their costs, which is something we aim to avoid. We kindly appeal to your understanding of this situation and hope that a resolution can be found that alleviates this burden. Moving forward, we're pleased to inform you that we have registered with the WaterSmart program and now have active alerts set up via email and text to our cell phone to prevent any similar issues from occurring in the future. Thank you once again for your time, effort, and consideration. We truly appreciate your support.
Do you have anything else to add?
Let me add something to Eric's comments, because you were talking about the refund. So in that month, that happened in July. So when we got the ACH was in process. So it was not processed by the bank because it was unusual. So that month I called the mall directly, and basically we paid on that month the average that we were paying. So it hasn't been paid. The 21,000 is not going to be reimbursement. Like whatever decision is going to taken here, we have to pay for that. It's not. It won't be the case of reimbursement from you to us.
Have they paid the 21?
No.
No, okay. I'm gonna add something here. You know, you notice Wendy's not here today. So she called me about an hour before the meeting. And so she owns a business in Los Angeles. And so she's consumed with phone calls right now as the business struggles with their fire. You mean? And then she asked me if we could table this a month because she would like to participate in the discussion in the board. And I don't know what
That's something the board wants to do.
wants to do. I mean, that's what she requested. That we table it for another month so that she can be here and discuss this with us. So, I guess the thing we do is make a motion to table and then we allow.
Just defer, so you don't have to
Defer.
make a motion to remove from the
okay.
table. That's the more efficient way. It's just defer and get
Defer.
motion.
Any comment on that from the board?
Did she give you any questions that she wanted to ask?
What's that?
Did she give you any questions that she wanted to ask?
No, she just said, obviously she's heard the discussion up to this date. And obviously she can look at the tape. And hear that's why I thought it was good that you continue, because she can look at the tape, but, she said,
What new information would happen between now and the next meeting, other than her being here?
I think she wants to express her view. And I don't know what that view is. She just said, David, could you, she said, can you table or defer this to next month so I can participate in the discussion? So.
You've got the corner office.
Yeah, I mean, that you haven't paid, and so you're now out of money, so it's our delay in payment. And if you guys are all okay with that, then we can defer this and take a vote next month. And I don't think, we've kind of done the presenting data, so basically what's left is a discussion. And what do you all think?
I don't think we need to postpone it, but I'm open to it. I mean, if the rest of the board thinks it's the right thing to do for our customer, then that's what we need to do. But I think that 4 people here can certainly make the decision, but I leave that to you. You've got the corner office, like I said.
Tom,
I see no objection.
no objection to deferring?
Deferring.
Suzanne?
I think I agree with Fred. There's 4 of us here. And unless she was able to give you any comments, you did find a crack in the encasement in the vault, Eric.
The lid is not,
But it's
Yeah,
not,
it's not watertight.
it's not meant to be watertight. It's just, I'm just saying that, the lid, all the lid, if you had it closed all the way, it probably would have drained slower,
yeah, it
and
still would have gone.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if, when I saw the lid, and it could have been opened by anybody, we tried to repair or discover what happened. It's not a locked lid, it just closes. And if you look at the photograph here, I think there's a spring on the lid. At least I thought I saw a spring. Yeah, right here, there's a spring, you know what I mean? And it just pops the lid down. So we have,
The president, go
yeah,
for it.
yeah,
I think this has to be a major
she,
discussion topic here.
she seemed, it's just the only thing she brought up to me. And
Make the call.
I would like, so I'd like to defer and allow her to participate. And since she expressed an interest in it.
That's your call. That's what we do.
Okay,
Well, if you want a motion, I'll make a motion. that
well, we don't
defer.
need a motion, we just need to
We don't
defer.
need one.
So I'm sorry for the delay, but I think it's probably beneficial that she comes to speak. She's a small business owner. And
Yeah, as long as they're not out any money.
they're not any money. It's us. It's just a pending charge.
Okay. Noted. Virtual February.
We will do that. There you go. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And anybody have anything on the consent agenda they would like to pull out?
Let's see. The only observation that I made here. In the report. But 2 questions, and one actually John Knox already answered, that in the last report, it was slightly different from the Knox Cox audit, the numbers, and I think it's a timing issue, and the other one was a question on Maureen's analysis of first quarter investment results, which I thought was a great job. And one question for you. Were these rates vary by quarter? Okay, that's what I wrote here. I wasn't sure.
Yes.
So, okay, good.
Again, anybody want to pull anything off? We kind of discussed it already, but
I think we've hit all the things I've got. Oh, wait a second here. penalty for delinquent on personal property taxes, is that something to be handled later, page 24?
We can pull it off for later.
Yeah, that's item 10.
Oh, good.
It's one of the consent
Oh,
items.
okay, okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
So if you want to pull it off, then we would pull it off. Otherwise, there wouldn't be discussion on it.
Well, the only questions I've got is who is the attorney, or what is the name of the attorney, what's their experience, and have we done conflict testing on them?
So that's Purdue Brandon.
Hang on for a second. Purdue?
Purdue Brandon is the delinquent tax collections firm. They're a major delinquent tax collections firm here in the Houston area, and they handle the district for what, 20+ years?
Yes, 20+ years, long as I've been here, yes.
Have they done it for us every year? So this is really
John, pull it off.
Yeah, let's go back to pulling it off. So you want to pull this off and we can tie it to the resolution? Okay, so
Fine.
we're gonna pull, that was, item 10 off. Okay. Anything else?
Pull off means defer.
No, means we're gonna discuss it.
Separately.
We're gonna discuss it in the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Takes care of that.
Anything else you want to pull off?
Page 2. No.
Okay.
The regular agenda.
Okay. Can I have a motion to pass?
Motion passed.
Second?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor of the consent agenda? Aye. Okay.
Item 10.
Item 10.
So, item 10 is an annual housekeeping item. You will see this on your agenda each January. There's a second resolution for delinquent real property that you will see on your agenda in usually March or April. The reason they are separated is that the tax code has different time periods for when you can pass on the penalty to delinquent taxpayers for personal property versus real property. The theory being that personal property can disappear, real property can't, so you attach the penalty sooner for personal property. So for personal property, it attaches on April 1st, real property, it attaches on July 1st. So the penalty is equal to what is paid to the delinquent tax attorney, which is 20% of collections, and that's set by the tax code. So the purpose of passing on the penalty is so that the district gets 100% of delinquent collections and not 80% of delinquent collections. He who is delinquent pays the penalty, is the thought. So the motion comprises two things. One is to approve the resolution to adopt the additional penalty, and two is to authorize the delinquent tax attorney to begin collection of those delinquent taxes beginning on April 1st, but not before, because what you don't want to have happen is a delinquent account, all accounts become delinquent on February 1st. You go, delinquent tax attorney pursues it beginning on February 2nd and gets collection before April 1st. So you can't pass on the penalty and you only get the 80%. So we tell the delinquent collections attorney, don't start your collection activity until the additional penalty kicks in to guarantee that we get 100% of our collections.
Perfect.
And this is we passed this in previous years. I went back and looked last 2 years and it's identical.
Right. We have to do it every year because each tax levy is a separate levy and a lien on a property. So we can't just have an evergreen resolution that applies for future tax levies and future tax liens.
Any questions? Could I have a motion to pass?
Motion to pass.
Second?
Wait a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 14, consider and act upon a request for nominations from the presiding officer of the Conservation Reclamation District of Montgomery County Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. It's kind of oddly worded. So, any discussion? I'm gonna talk if no one else is. So this is the MCAT elections, right? And the last legislature changed the board of directors, and they added 3 citizens votes, and they ran in the November election or the May or something. You know, they ran in a separate election. They were elected, so the board was expanded, and apparently the law changed. Also, that all 5 MCAD directors have to run. And so in the past, to be honest with you, we kind of passed this before, probably we voted on this before when we first got on here, but there wasn't a lot of interest. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot more interest in this election cycle. And I wouldn't be surprised as a dozen people nominated. You know what I mean? And so, and there was some confusion too, because originally told people there were no elections this year, and it turned out there were. And that's kind of surprised some of the people who were contemplating this. So, so the way to me this works is this month we nominate, and next month we hold the election. And the way it works is that if you take our MUD, you know, all MUDs in the Woodlands together hold about 1.7% of the vote. 1.7%. We hold, I think, 0.3% of a vote. So we're not a big player compared to Conway ISD as an example, which is low 30s, I think. And so we're not big players. But there's also 5 positions. So when we vote, you know, we can vote for 1 candidate, or we can vote for 2 candidates, or we can vote for 5 candidates next month. So the question, you know, the first question is, we have to make nominations today. So does anybody on the board have any nominations? None? Okay, so I will, you know, nominate, okay? I'd like to nominate Arthur, you know, to the board. I would also like to nominate Bruce Reeser. He used to be the township, one of the township officials. And then Dale Inman, who's the SREC member for the Republican Party for Montgomery County. He's the male member. And then Charles Shirley, he's the chairman of the Republican, he's the treasurer of the Republican Party. And then Luis Perez, who ran last time but didn't run. So we're allowed to have 5 nominations. And I'll say this, I believe all 5 of these people will send all of us their resumes before the election in the next, probably the week. So we'll have their bio. I think Arthur probably has one with them. And so those 5 will, and I'll be honest with you, what's going to happen next is on the 20th of January, you know, they will take all these nominations and put them on a master sheet and send us back a ballot. So just because we nominate someone doesn't mean they're getting a vote. You know, we will vote on the list of people on the nomination board. And so there may be duplicates, meaning more than one taxing entity nominates the same people. I'll just clean it out, but they'll give us a consolidated list.
Nominations only presented at the MUD meetings?
No, there's no requirement for that. They will come back, you know, they may come back, they may send us a resume, I don't know. But they don't necessarily have to, am I wrong? I don't think they have to come and present.
Well, you know, it's a different world with this new setup. So historically, the way it's been done is that the Woodlands districts supported, there was a separate position just for special purpose districts. And so the Woodlands would coalesce around a single candidate for that position to give the Woodlands the best chance to get someone on the board. And the MUDs and the township would all support the same candidate, so you'd have a better chance of being able to get a candidate on the board. That changed several years back. There was a split where the township was all nominating one candidate and MUDs were nominating another, and the result is Woodland's vote was split and neither one got a position. And then Arthur was able to get that coalesced again and have support for both the township and the MUDs, and was able to get representation for that special district position. You know, now with this new arrangement, you know, I don't think we've ever had more than one nomination at the MUD level. I'm frankly not sure how this is going to shake out. They weren't even sure if there was supposed to be an election this time.
That's right. I mean, this letter we got from them 6 days before, I have a letter email saying there were no elections.
So
I
I
mean, so
can't
it's been
really tell you
confusing.
how this is gonna play out. I think we're all gonna be learning as we go. It'll be a first to have more than one nomination by one of the Woodlands districts. So I'll be as curious as anybody to see how this shakes out.
Do you foresee each MUD having a different slate of nominees?
No, because Metro Mud nominated Arthur, and historically, all the other districts didn't consider a nomination because you only needed one of the districts that they're coalescing around a candidate. And they supported Arthur in the last election. His term was supposed to be, what, 2 years?
Years, yeah.
Now they're having to come back and do this after 1 year of that 2 year period. That was part of the confusion. It was originally a 2 year period. So why would you have an election after 1 year? Doing that anyway. So it wouldn't be on all the MUD agendas because as long as we had one district nominate, it only needed to be on one district's agenda to do a nomination. Now, the vote itself, the step 2 of the process, when you actually have the votes, that's on every MUD's agenda because each district has a certain number of votes based on what your tax levy is. So the Woodlands have become less influential as your tax levy has gone down. Your value has gone up. But what you levy and, burden taxpayers with has gone down. So as you reduce your tax burden on your taxpayers, you become less influential in this process.
And we now have 3 districts that don't get to vote because their levy's so low.
Yeah.
So they don't get to vote.
Yeah, I added them up, 1.7% of the total votes. And
So why are we nominating
I-
4 versus 1? I mean, 5 versus.
well, I guess I'm saying that I think there's a lot of community interest in this. There's problems with the board in the past. We recently passed I guess loss of confidence of 2 chief appraisers. And I think there's going to be a lot of nominations, and I know these people are community leaders. They're interested, and it really only affects to make sure that they're on the ballot. Yeah, I mean,
It's one for each of the different ones.
yeah, right. You don't have to specify. We'll add 5 votes.
Yeah, I have no idea. This, like I said, this is gonna be a new process to figure out how this plays out.
Yeah, it's definitely. This is driven by the state legislature and the changes they made, and all. So, any discussion? Have a motion to make the nominations? First,
Motion.
second,
Second.
let's vote. On favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we got that one done. Congratulations, Arthur. You got a nomination, although you probably didn't need it. Okay, so review and consider the district's fiscal year 23-24 draft audit report.
Start with a sincere apology. This report, as I just realized, isn't in a condition that I would ask for your approval this month, which turns out seems to be a little fortuitous because Director Lederman had some questions that he wanted to discuss with me. So it gives us the opportunity to do that. I'd like to come back next month and we'll get an audit approved, hopefully, after we've had our discussions. And we had a massive software glitch on this report. I've never seen it before. I have no idea how it happened, but it did. So I wouldn't want to ask y'all to approve it in this condition.
We
Thank
can
you.
defer this one.
I believe we can.
Yep. Any discussion?
We need a motion on that.
Yep, motion to defer? No.
Just that for
I guess we don't. With defer, we just defer.
nothing needed.
We'll see you next month.
Next month.
Grant exemptions from taxation for 2025 and the adoption of a resolution in connection thereof. So that's pages 30 and 32.
Yes, so you've got in there a copy of the resolution. We have a blank in section 1 for the over 65 and disabled. Section 2 is the residential homestead exemption. I assume that we're all going to be keeping that at 20, at the max, statutory max of 20%. So that part is completed. On the next page, 32, you'll see a chart that has the 24 exemptions listed. MUD 46 had 30,500 as your over 65 and disabled exemption in 24. So you can adopt the resolution with your same exemption as 24. You can adopt the exemption with a different number, or you can defer and consider it next month if you want to have more time to think about an alternative. If you want to do something different than what you did in 24.
So we can defer up to 1 month.
Yes.
Question. Why is 47, have a 35,000 exemption for over 65 and disabled, and we're 4,500 less?
Well, I can tell you MUD 67 just changed theirs to 40K.
I'm sorry, what was that?
40K.
So last year we voted 30,500 and then 47 came in and voted higher than us
Oh,
at their meeting.
It's each board's discretion on what you want to do. Obviously, it has impact to your other voters because
That's
you're
right.
given a discount on one, your others are raised. Now, your appraisals are going up, so, you know, good possibility that covers it. Wouldn't be a big change, but industry standard is not at those high marks usually. But
Where are we at today?
right, I think the industry, I mean, typically,
Yeah, if you see y'all, it's usually about 10,000. But I mean, I temper that with the Woodlands. It's way far outside of regular mudland.
agreed.
I think the things to consider when you're looking at your exemptions, you've already used your major ammunition for your 20% residential homestead exemption. And you are the only districts I know of that have adopted the max, certainly ones that I represent. So that's great, but that uses up a lot of your exemption firepower. So the remainder is, okay, how much commercial property do you have that you can essentially shift tax burden onto? Because when you do a targeted exemption, you're basically moving tax responsibility from one subset of your tax base to another. So how much commercial do you have? You have a decent amount. And the other is what percentage of your resident taxpayer base qualifies for the over 65 and disabled? Because if it's 20 to 30%, well, that's a pretty big chunk. If it's 10 whatever percent, not so much. So those are the types of things that go into account. The other thing to think about is this is for tax year 25, and so you're not going to see your certifieds until August or September. Then you're going to be adopting your tax rate. So whatever districts do in terms of exemptions earlier in the year, and that's required under the tax code, so it's a little bit disjointed. It impacts your flexibility later in the year when you're considering lowering your tax rates across the board. So part of it's philosophical. Do you want to provide tax relief across the board to all taxpayers? Or do you want to have, additional to particular subsets of your tax base? Just understanding that to the extent you do that, and maybe it's not material, it impacts the flexibility to modify your tax rate later in the year because it is all the same tax year.
okay.
Any comments?
Question for Brian. So, as I think I understand what you said, all residents have got 20% homestead exemption.
Correct.
And in addition to that, there'll be a 30,500 people over 65.
Correct.
Do you have any kind of feel for what the demographics are for 46 versus 47 versus 60? Which are the?
That's a Jeannie question. She could tell you how many you have accounts in your district, but I don't know at her fingertips if she can do comparisons among
It's
districts.
almost, it's 1,580 for over 65 and disabled.
How many?
Out of, 83.
Yeah, 80 some odd, right?
It's lower than the
83,
others.
43. Now that's just residential. And then there's 493 business personal properties
So 1,500 out
out
of
of
80.
that.
Couple of the other districts,
It's about
67,
19%.
and a couple others were at about a third.
Oh, that's a big difference.
So you're way different than that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
15 over 80.
Yeah.
Some of them.
We're a younger crowd.
Perhaps.
Percentage wise.
percentage wise. Yeah.
And I have a question. How do we rate, so we have a memory care facility in the Montclair neighborhood. How do we rate those? Because most of the people in there are over 65 that live there.
But they're not gonna own,
The property.
the property, so they're not gonna qualify.
Rental. Did the legislature expand the over 65, I mean, not the homestead exemption? Didn't they make some modifications?
School districts, not for,
Oh,
not
for school
not for-
districts, not for us.
So on 67, you're asking about that one. So they, little additional color there. They have added Hughes Landing, which has added a lot of value. Also, the Ritz Carlton that's being constructed is in their district. So they're coming into a lot of additional tax base and have come in a lot of additional tax base recently.
Tom? Your thoughts?
I believe we only that worth that for this year. We've raised it the last 2 years and that was mostly my doing. I did it to kind of spark the other muds to start raising theirs, which they did. And I believe that the economic impact, I think we're fine the way we are.
Susanna?
I'm one of the younger homeowners in our district, so I'm fine leaving where it's at.
So Tom, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we leave it the way it is and make no changes.
Second? All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Receive regular monthly SJRA Witness Division report.
Well, good evening. I don't have anything to add to the information in your packet, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
The list of projects that you were working on, that's
Yes.
been updated. It looks pretty darn good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, kudos to you and to the team that put it together.
Thank you. We're trying to stay on schedule and within budget the best we can.
One question, looking at your financials, do you see that fiscal year, I guess it would be 2024, would have any excess revenue that we can recapture, or are we gonna go through the same drill as last year?
So by resolution, I have to go through the same drill as always. So even if there's $1 left over, I have to bring it back to the trustees and the voters for approval. There's some thresholds there that get in the weeds. Like if we haven't made 90% of revenue, then we don't bring it back because we have to make sure we make more revenue for the current year.
Yes, absolutely.
This year is perfectly fine. So next month at the trustees and the MUDs, we will be discussing any excess funds.
What about recapturing the funds that were not utilized from the last
Last year's excess fund?
money grab? Sorry, didn't even say it like
Yeah,
that. But
not a problem. Some of those projects are still underway. So right now, all the funds are planned to be utilized at this point from last year's excess funds. The last 2 or 3 remaining projects are notated in the
We spoke
projects.
2 or 3 months ago, you were thinking there would be some funds left over.
I was thinking about what you just asked for FY24. A few months ago, I figured there'd be money left over because looking at the July financials, there was going to be money left.
Okay.
So we do have 2 projects at this point that we're going to propose for, approval for the excess funds, but looking at it right now, it looks like there's going to be a lot recommended to be refunded to the MUDs.
Is the what's the issue that the SJRA faces that they can't identify these projects prior to determining if there are excess funds? Why can't it be part of the budget process?
Oh, they can. These projects are projects that we had, so we're doing our budget between January and May. And so we identify these projects at the same time. And we also identify them and say, these are large projects and that they would cause a large rate increase. So what we say is, if you want to pay for it now, you have extra cash on hand, you could pay for the project now. If y'all decline and say, no, we don't want to pay for that with extra cash, we say, it's okay, we're going to put it in next year's budget.
Which seems to be a proper way of exercising our fiduciary responsibility to protect our constituents, our residents. That it's put into and tracked as part of your budget process, not taken from the MUDs as part of this excess revenue process. And I know there's a legacy issue. And I have a problem with the legacy issue, and I have a problem with how the trustee board has dealt with it last year, because I was part of it. I guess my concern is we seem to be dragging this through, and it's going to be very difficult to change the rules, laws, regulations, whatever we got. It's much easier if we talk to the SJRA and they assume the responsibility of controlling their budget and being able to forecast it in advance. I'm not against the projects that you're working on. I'm very much in favor of them. My question is the process in which we do it, and the money that we have left over, from my perspective, should go back to the mess. And I know you can't rule on that, but it seems to me it's to be a continuing saga of legacy issues that affect our ability to save money for our constituents. I think last year, what was it, 500 some odd thousand bucks for 46? Multiple millions?
Yeah, it was about 5 million in total. I don't remember the breakdown individually, but that is why it goes to the trustees.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But it was a large sum of money that would have gone to two things. One, to either our reserve that Eric feels so strongly about, and I don't disagree with him. I think that we should be looking for ways to do it. And this seems to get in the way of that. And I don't know what process we have to go through to ensure that the SJRA puts together a budget that stands the test of providing all of the projects that need to be done without taking money from the constituents.
Now, we're still going to put projects in the budget. We're just giving the option. So if the trustees say, no, we don't want that, put everything into your budget, and that's the way they go forward, we're fine with that. This is just a resolution, the contract that's on hand now that we have to follow in the process we have to abide
So
by.
this is part of your issue, David, with your trustee board?
Yes. And last time we took a vote and our side didn't win. And so we will do that again. And I don't know the outcome. I think people are more sensitive to it.
I had an email that went out describing that as a backdoor tax. I still believe that. And I don't agree with the process, and I'm adamant about it. It would be wonderful if we could have the new general manager for the SJRA come here and address that with this mud. But we haven't had the opportunity to do that, and I think that's a problem. I mean, you and Ed do a great job. But the problem is, I don't believe that you two guys are the decision makers. The general manager is. And I think that he needs to show up and fess up, basically.
And pass that along.
Thank you.
Any other, how about the Panther Branch, Research Forest drainage improvements?
On the next time, okay.
Are we done with the?
Do you have any other questions?
No, I think you did a good job. Great job on the projects.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to get an update, I think it was late October, the stakeholders for the project for the Bear Panther got together. Resultant of that was to direct LJA to utilize the new model, run a couple of different scenarios. That model and those scenarios are complete. They've given us a report. They just presented it to 67 an hour ago. And what we decided was to go ahead and schedule a stakeholder meeting to invite LJA to come back, go over it with us, with all the stakeholders like we did before. So tomorrow we'll do a couple things. One is we'll send out that draft report, and then send out also a what do we call it? Is it meeting? What? Dude, it's the meeting scheduling.
Sign up genie, I call it.
Yeah, it basically gives you options on which,
Yeah.
So we'll get that scheduled hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll have the engineer go over it with us. And then we'll talk amongst the stakeholders and see what the next steps are at that point.
Question on Texas Pride Utilities. That's the one that they recommend?
That's item number 20.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go over that in a
That's
second.
being correct.
So is it too late to shift items? Can we, let the item number 19, what draft water representation report, I'd like to move that down to after 25, because it may take some time depending upon how discussion goes.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you continue, and then
Okay.
we'll see what we,
We'll get through it. Sure. Item 20 then?
yeah, item 20.
Okay. Item 20 is, so for Susanna,
That's the governor, yeah.
yep, that's
We go.
so just to get you up to speed on this, a few years ago, we hired an engineering firm, Garver, to do an assessment, a physical assessment of the sanitary sewer lines, westward lines, under the ground that are 47 for all of those. Coming out of that, they identified some problem areas where there was broken pipes, there was manholes that were leaking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, a bunch of different things. So at that point, the magnitude of, if we did it all at that point, would have been pretty substantial per district. So it was agreed upon per the districts that it would be broken up into 3 phases or 3 years. Last fall, we finished year 1 or phase 1 of construction. While construction was going on, phase 2 was under design. Then around that same time, phase 2 design got approved by the governing agencies. And then the requirement then, because of the magnitude of the project, and again, this is Woodlands wide. Each district has a share, other than 36, at least in phase 2, to do and you have to do this by law, do official advertising for bid, to publicly bid it and publicly bid it, receive public bids in an open opening. Then the bids are tabulated, and then the engineer tabulates, reviews the bids, and then makes a recommendation called a ROA, recommendation of award. Before you here tonight is the recommendation of award for that bid for phase 2 of the sanitary sewer rehabilitation. So there were 2 bids that were received, 2 bidders, one from Texas Pride Utilities in the amount of $1,447,008. And then the other bidder was NBT, and I believe the amount was 1.767, I believe it changed. Engineer's estimate was within $1,000 of the bid, which is remarkable, quite frankly.
The low bid.
Of the low bid.
Low bid, yeah.
Yep, which is exactly what you're hoping for, or, you know. But nonetheless, the low bidder happened to be the contractor that did phase 1 construction. So we have experience with them. They did a good job. Their bid is not irregular. So for all those reasons, Garver gave the recommendation award to award the contract to Texas Pride in the amount of $144,008. And I reviewed that as well, and I'm in concurrence with that. So we need concurrence from the board.
Yep. I agree with that.
Any questions?
And it is budgeted. It's
Budgeted.
already budgeted.
Right.
It was in your budget, and it's with him.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Garber Engineering.
Second,
That's award.
The ROA. Yep.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's done. Review the district's current water and wastewater capacity and discussion determined of the SFDU. So Fred, do you want to speak on that?
Sure. I contacted Eric on the process and procedure, and we discussed his recommendation, Ed's as well. Before I do it, I want to give a shout out to both Ed and Eric for doing a great job and spending a lot of time with me, sending in changes and adjustments and disagreements with some of the conclusions that I drew. And Dave, thank you for your support on that too. The reports that were part of the package, well, it was in addition to the package, is for everyone to read and comment on. I have distributed to what I call the interim final draft. Beginning to count sounds fixed and final, isn't it? You know? But the interim final draft has been sent to Eric, Ed, Brian, and Dave, and I gave a copy to Tom because I think he needed to know it because he was part of the process during his tenure as president. And we went through a lot of concern about SFDUEs. Concerns that I've got, my overview is 2017 was the 6th and final review on SFDUEs and the support documents for it. It's a fairly thick binder. It's very complete, but nothing's been done in the 7 or 8 years since then. No update. The project should have been simple with charts, with tracking SFDU, those purchased, the cost of the purchase, the bonds sold, the list of the SFDUEs by track. That has not been complete. It's not available. Parts of it are. I did get a summary email from Eric of by track number SFDUEs, and thank you for that. I don't know if that's the most current, but that I do have that. The contracts have been researched because I had no choice. In order to find out what the SFDUE cost was, I needed to know how many SFDUEs were issued, both water and wastewater. And it wasn't easy to do by the 2 contracts, the addendum to the contract, and the supplement, and the 11 or 12 supplemental agreements. Having said all of that, it's taken 7 months to compile this report, and there's still disagreement by the parties that should know more than me. So we've now got this interim report that we really should have a workshop on. And the purpose of the workshop is to go through the discussions, to be able to take a look at the ORNP, the observations, recommendations, and proposals that are in the back of this report, so we can make a decision on what this MUD wants to do to, number one, document and confirm what the actual SFDUEs are and the cost. I don't believe it's going to be possible to get our total out-of-pocket expense because it hasn't been tracked in that normal way from a conventional cost accounting perspective or from a line item perspective. And to go back and rebuild that is not really worth our time and effort. And I think in one case in the report, I said some contracts are not worth reviewing. We need to kind of put a stake in the ground, line in the sand, whatever you want to call it, and say from this point forward, we're going to have these SFDUEs, and the 6th and final for MUD 46 becomes irrelevant because we now have got an established confirmed one. Eric gave me one report. I had another one from the 6th and final. I had another one from another agency that was, or the consulting firm that looked at it. So 3 reports are detailed in the SFDUE project report. I'm looking at having 1, possibly 2 workshops between 2 and 3 hours each to discuss and finalize this report. And according to Eric's note here, I need to present this information to you and have the board request and approve an additional workshop meeting. And that's what I'm offering here is we need to have the meeting. I'd like to have it this month, so we'll be able to have as close to a final version as possible for the next meeting in February. And I'll take on the assignment of consolidating all the information and updating it. So that's where we are.
So discussion?
I believe that Fred is correct. We do need to sit down, and I've got probably 30 questions and I need those answered. And this is not the forum to do it.
Like ours.
Susanna?
I agree with Tom.
Okay, so I've spent 2 hours with one meeting already, and there's still a lot of questions.
Yeah, well,
And,
the process at this point,
no way
is
to-
that once we get the approval, that Shelley can proceed in setting up the workshop meeting.
I'll say one thing, looking at the calendar, right? I mean, next week is supposed to be maybe a little sleet and snow, and it may be difficult. So what I would do, I don't know if you guys have used this Doodle, Sign Up Genie?
We would use the same thing.
Same thing, and it's actually pretty good. So why don't you put a range of meetings, times in it, and then each of you, there's an app, and you can see us, how we all vote, and basically say, I can do that date, I can't do that, or I may be able to do that.
Yep.
And the key is getting that done in a few days.
Right.
And so that we can-
If you get one meeting of, call it 3 hours for scheduling purposes. I hope we don't need that long, but we may. And do it between now and the 31st. I'll update this report, issue it prior to the next meeting. And hopefully that will do it. If we need to go to a second meeting, well, that complicates it a bit.
Tom, your flight schedule, do you kind of know that?
I think
You can do it, and you have to let him know about times that you can.
Yeah.
I'm flexible, I'm retired. Fred and I are
That's
both that
not
way.
good.
Well, I'm traveling on business.
Oh, you are?
I'll be gone, tomorrow through next week.
What we'll do
Pardon?
is, I'll work with.
Brian,
Ryan, Get some available dates that we know how to do it, and then Shelley will pull those, and ping you
with the matrix.
like David said, and I think with the stakeholders.
We did the stakeholders. It worked well.
So it gives you options and you just say, yes, maybe, no, basically, you know.
Right. And you can see what other people do also.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good tool.
It works for trying to get a bigger group together.
Right.
Good.
So, okay, so
We'll commit to do that if that's the direction you want to go. You guys want to do?
we need a motion to approve, I mean, to, approve it.
will work
We don't
out.
need it?
I don't
No.
think you need a motion, just
Okay.
concurrence if that's what
Yeah.
you want to do.
Good.
Sounds like.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
We'll do
Thank you, Fred, for doing this report.
Absolutely, absolutely my pleasure to get it off my desk. So,
Quite a lot of work.
it.
Okay, receive attorney's report.
I'll try to go quick. I'll handle 22 and 23, in the interest of time, if you're okay with that. 22, attorney's report, lead session started yesterday, as y'all know, and the speaker was elected. Now they're going through the process of assigning chairmanships and getting the committee set up so that we can have the plumbing in place for bills to be able to make their way through the legislative chamber. So it is off and running now. So
How many weeks will it take them to assign committee chairman?
it really just depends. I would think, just depends. I'd be speculating. Yeah, I mean, the sooner the better, because you need to start going through the hearings. You start having deadlines for when things.
They usually have pretty
start to
quickly.
get killed. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I have under the attorney's report, and under 23, the memo regarding PFAS, or what's commonly referred to as forever chemicals. The short version of that is that districts in the Woodlands only receive finished water, as that's described in the EPA rules from the River Authority. We don't separately, we the MUDs don't separately treat water, surface or groundwater that we receive from the River Authority before providing it to our customers. What that means is that the River Authority will be solely responsible for compliance with the EPA's rules regarding PFAS testing. My only recommendation to the board is to concur or Eric to coordinate with the River Authority so that the MUDs are in the loop about the testing that's being done. And if there are any elevated levels of PFAS for any of the districts that require additional monitoring or treatment requirements, that the MUDs are kept in the loop on that, and to allow Eric to be able to be involved in that process. That's it.
How about the item 23?
That is
Oh,
20.
23, okay. Did Biden pass that PFAS right before he signed it?
No, that's been coming for a long
Long
time.
time,
I
okay.
have a question about the politics of that. And I mean, I'm no political expert by any means. It doesn't seem like that is a really politically
Political action,
motivated
okay.
issue that you would see change from one. I mean, everybody wants clean water, so I mean, whether they really change that, we're all speculating, but that doesn't seem to be as heightened on the political level as some of these other things we're seeing come out in the last days.
Sure, General Manager.
I'm just gonna disagree. I think it was political. I think the EPA went out, they talked big and they said, we're gonna go after the producers of these PFAS forever chemicals. And then they turned around and they went after the consumers. We are the consumers, and they went after us and told us, you have to test your water, which is gonna be an expense on the SJRA, which they're,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're gonna pass that cost down to us. And they're gonna say, look what we did. They didn't do anything. All they did was make the SJRA spend more money on something that, okay, now that you know that we have PFAS in our water, what now? I mean, you can't do anything about it. You still haven't gone after the people who are putting it in the water, and it's the farmers upstream.
I agree with 100% with Tom.
So,
So
There you go.
what you're saying is they left out the political process, which was good.
well, all the big
Yeah.
businesses that are
Yeah.
putting it in the environment, that they can still keep doing it. There's no restriction against them. And the EPA was set up specifically to prevent that.
What are they gonna do? Call it a Superfund site?
Well, I think they need to stop producing it because it's just, it's getting into every acre of land that every acre of farmland in America. So. There we go.
The waste that we create, the sludge, what do we do with that?
Landfill,
Landfill,
which is considered, excuse me, compost, which is considered landfill.
compost?
Compost, but it's only on TxDOT roadways and right of ways. So we give it to a place out in off of 105 and then mix it with other stuff and then they sell it to TxDOT for right of ways and stuff.
There's been I've been reading a little articles about cows and stuff like that, but this would,
So is it a biodegradable product?
The compost?
Yes.
It is.
Or the flock, the
Sludge.
sludge, what do you call it, flock?
Biosolids.
Okay.
After it's been pressed out. When it's liquid, it's sludge. When it's been pressed and semi-dry, biosolids.
Okay. Is it a consumable product by cattle?
depends where you have it. It depends where you put it. If you put it on a pasture, the answer is yes.
It's also where it can go too. So
Yeah.
they can't just choose.
No, I was curious. I've been, I've heard a presentation, a couple of things popped up and so,
Ready for.
ready for your general manager
Sorry.
report.
Just want to let you know that we have been running the ditches. As I reported before, we will be starting doing that. We have, Kim has done an unbelievable job, in working with our GIS, consultant to, utilize an app that is available where we can drive the ditch, stop at an asset, a pipe or an issue, document size, type of pipe, condition of the pipe, condition of the situation, if it's siltation, whatever, take a picture, drop a pin and identify that asset as we're moving down the ditch, assessing the condition. So we're doing that right now. The resultant of that will be to extract that data back out to help develop the capital improvement / project plan for WWA. And the importance of that is that we'll be able to utilize that as a roadmap for budgeting purposes in the future. So when we talk about surplus, now we'll know, do we even have enough? I've been talking about that number, but is it enough? Well, we don't know necessarily because we don't have a capital improvement plan, at least on the retail side. So that will help us. What I'm just preliminarily, what I'll tell you is the ditches overall look pretty good. The piping coming into them don't look pretty good. And then there's a couple of ditches that, have a little bit of siltation, some older stuff. There's some clearing that needs to be done on the older ditches that the trees that, theoretically weren't there 50 years ago. Bird sits on a fence, tree starts, and those trees just slowly start, closing in on the ditch. There's some areas where that needs to be cleared out so we can properly maintain and keep it pushed back in the future. But more to come on that. We haven't gotten through all the ditches, but we're working on that. Ideally, we'll have it done such that we can develop that capital improvement plan for budgetary discussion in July. When we start working budgets in July and all that. So
This is something that this board has been talking about before you, before Eric, okay? Where tracking and monitoring success is critical to our future success. I call it there's a postmortem and there's a premortem. A premortem anticipates and analyzes historical data to determine where failures could occur and takes action in advance. We seem to always be in a catch-up, at least in 2.5 years I've been here. It's great to see that you're doing something different than previous management, and it's well received by me. So I look forward to you doing more of that.
as an aside, we have talked internally, Kim and I are in alignment in that we want to become a data-driven organization. This is a step towards that. You can't do analytics without data. We want to extract and keep track of as much data.
That's my report. I said the DOE report. It's difficult without it.
That's the direction. So.
Anything else?
Just real quick, AWD did one of conferences, 24th and 5th. If you're going, hope to see you there. I will be at the December trustee meeting. The trustees voted to have me as the GRP committee representative. I've attended an orientation. I received a binder of information, which I reached out to Brad, as I mentioned to the trustees that I would. I reached out to Brad. I'm gonna be having a meeting with him, and we'll go through that, information. And then the first meeting is January 21st. So going forward, what I'm gonna do in the general manager's report of the trustee meeting is an annual section to update on the goings on, as I see them. And as Brad and I are working on it. So that's moving forward. And then lastly, we've got a little bit of time and John walked out. So, Tom's report, long story short, in addition to, two things we do need to get covered that John was going to cover. One was the CWG. We did have our first CWG meeting, community work group meeting, back early December. Next meeting's February 5th. Suzanne is your lead. One of the things we talked about at that meeting was identifying an alternate in case the lead across all the organizations cannot make it. So I've asked if any of the other directors would like to be an alternate in case the lead cannot attend. That's something that anyone would
I'll volunteer for that.
volunteer. Okay.
Yeah, unless you guys want to fight over it.
No, go for it.
You're stronger than me.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just put me
Yep,
down.
David, okay, and lastly, this is January, and so this is time to break out the annual report. Another thing that you haven't seen before, is that, a couple years ago, the MUD started doing, sending out an annual report. This is MUD specific on some of the accomplishments that the MUD has done over the last year, and that will go out in the February, bill. And so it's time to get rolling on looking at that again. In the past, we've picked or the board has picked an individual that would take the lead on working with John to get the update or get it's a 2-pager front and back, with information, good information. So if anyone would like to work, Tom, I think you've done it in the past. haven't
I've
you?
done it the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it's traditionally been the president's job. Did I say that?
So-
I second that.
Second that.
So,
I volunteered one too many times this meeting. Okay.
no, but
Get
so
used to it.
if anyone would like to take the lead, to really just to work with John to get it in, not final version, but at least in reviewable final version that we can approve it at your February. That's the goal. Get it far enough along that y'all can all contemplate it at the February meeting. So anybody want to?
You could nominate Wendy.
I've got too much. So I'm not gonna, I'm just with a short time frame, can't do it.
You need a rest from all the work you've been
Going
doing.
through all out.
John, you can email me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else? Is it good? Okay. With that, that is,
Then we got the Woodlands trustees. Do you have any? I have a couple topics, but one really.
go ahead and.
And, and so, we have this, one thing we deferred on the, I put it down,
The matrix.
the matrix, but there's a second part that came out was, so Carrillo, is that how you pronounce the name?
Rollo.
Quilla. And so they bought a recommendation that we now do the structural analysis of of 5 structures in wastewater treatment plant 1. So this is basically a analysis of the cement, structural cement in these items. And I think the report is in the packet. And the surprising thing,
We have copies.
you have copies up here. The surprising thing is that we're doing this after we spent $2 million. It should have been done the first thing before we got started. So we're now going back and looking at to understand the structure, the lives left inside those 5 structures. And basically, it's one clarifier, one aerator. I forget the other.
Digester,
Digester.
thickener, lift station.
Right, so that they're gonna basically drain that and do core samples, other sampling techniques, sound, core. And I asked Eric, and I guess I'll say the same thing here. I'd like a video photographic documentation of that, while you have it drained, that we have a record what that looks like. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's part of what their study is going to do with the visual
They
and
have a
everything.
video recording of it or.
I don't know video, but I do know they're going to be taking pictures of the cracks and everything
Yeah.
else.
I'd like to have the pictures of the whole area. You mean,
You should go help.
just what?
You should go help.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if it's a tank, let's
Mhm.
shoot pictures along the tank or take a video and. I mean,
See what we
it's cheap
can do.
now. You
Yeah.
can probably do it with an iPhone.
Right.
And I don't think I had to hire professional photographers. So this is a process, I guess, is a April, May timeframe.
Yeah, it's gonna, the schedule's in here, but basically it all concludes in June with the final report. You know, all MUD meeting trustees, whatever Eric decides, so.
I would encourage everybody to read and look at that document and so we become familiar with it and they'll come back. I guess a preliminary is in April, finals in May or something like that.
Something like that,
Yeah, so look at that. And that the cost of that is $200K. So there was an additional cost to have that analysis done. You have anything else to add?
There was also a presentation or an update on the AC water line, which is in your.
It's in the packet, right?
Basically, what have they been doing? What are they about to do? No conclusions necessarily, but just showing and they now are officially starting the destructive and non-destructive testing in the field.
I thought they did a piece of it already, sound,
Yeah, but it's still
Yeah.
going, yeah.
still going on, yeah.
There's a lot.
So anticipating that report, to be honest with you.
Okay, so we go into number 19 now?
Yes.
Yep, 14 minutes.
Okay, so, we didn't meet in December. And actually, things have kind of evolved. I have a handout for everybody.
I've already filled out mine.
You filled out yours?
I didn't.
I have to.
What?
I have to.
You have two?
Cool.
And I will say this, it's just an opening statement. I said this before with the force ranking that was done by the STRA for some of the projects 2 years ago. I have a problem with force singular ranking versus F-scale ranking. And this ranking process, I don't think does justice to what the needs of the community are. And kind of positions board members to create a hierarchy with only black and white, yes or no, it's binary. And F-scale allows you more flexibility to understand that there are shades of gray. And examples of that is safety over community impact. Well, what about community safety? I mean, some of these force rankings are just problematic in any type of decision modeling process. And I filled it out. The only time I had a real conflict was on use of existing structures and safety. I feel the same on both. Yes, I want safety, and yes, I want to utilize existing infrastructure. So again, I bring it up only as a point of observation. I give this to you. Is that who gets it?
Depends on how you want to do it. There's 9 of them done and 8 of them.
The packet has to be complete by the end of the month.
Yes,
Right.
what I.
So you want one sheet. So if you give them to me, I'll average them, put them on a spreadsheet.
Okay, you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll average them and put them in spreadsheet. So let me either give me that or give me make a copy. And I guess Wendy's not here and what's that? Do you have yours,
The
Tom?
other ones?
No, like I turned mine into you last month. Or,
I will look at it. I don't-
Get a copy.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay. And you have yours. And again, the packet, I kind of come easy. They have a back and a front, so I gave you a second page so you can put them side by side.
Yep.
And read them. My only comment is I don't know how this applies to, in the beginning, we had the big matrix, then the matrix changed, this big 8 typoloid sheet.
Yeah.
And since you're looking at, two processes, the clarifier and the membrane, and you're looking at rebuilding the plant, and this is the way this began, is those 4 options and ranking between those 4 options. It's kind of evolved into this sheet. And, I don't know how this is gonna be used in the sense of evaluating whatever they present, because I'm kind of curious. The step I'm curious is analysis of the structures. And, I don't know how this helps us in the analysis of the structures, but,
That's generally the problem with forced ranking.
yeah.
So.
So I make that comment, so if you fill that out, you can take a picture of it or scan it and send it to me.
Do you need me to get this to you by? end
Yeah,
of the
you
meeting?
want to take another packet to Wendy? Well, I can do it. I can do it. I'm closer than you, to be honest with you.
You are.
I'm closer than you. I'll take it to Wendy. And then you can either scan it or take a picture, print it. I'll put it on the table, average them. That's what they've been doing, right? They've been averaging them.
Well, what most of the districts have done is just sit around the table and discuss it.
But we're at a time, right?
Yeah, and so you come, with it filled out.
Fill out.
Say, well, I had one, there's three, okay.
Yeah.
3 ones, it's a one.
Okay.
I had 2, I had 3, I had 2, and you just kind of go real quick. And if some are easier to do than others, and then some, there was dialogue, quite frankly, and some, there was question, well, how do I rate this? What do you think about this one? Why do you think about that? If there was a real conflict or a stalemate, if you will, and someone was on the fence, there'd be a little bit more dialogue. So that's what 8 of them have done. Another one is doing it the way you're suggesting right now currently. So that's
But some of the muds had a separate mud meeting for it, right, in December.
correct. They had a little workshop.
Workshop,
Where
yeah.
they just did
Yeah,
that.
Mud 46 doesn't do anything quickly.
That's why we take a month off.
That's right.
Okay, so,
I'll do however you want it.
yep, you get Tom,
Just
and then
do it.
I'll take Wendy's, and we'll see where that takes us. Okay, so hopefully we don't have any closed session today. Let's see, reconvene. Okay, we did do that. So discuss matters in place in the future agenda. Anybody have anything on the future agenda?
You've got it all.
Okay.
Look for the invite to pick your date
Yes, okay.
Right.
for 2 of them.
Super, yeah.
Yeah, for stakeholder and then
Yeah.
workshop. Yep.
Okay, so have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We'll adjourn.